There we go. Episode 79. Oh, we're getting close to 80. That's cool. So anyway, Quarkus Insights number 80. And this week we are talking about new things in dev mode. And if time permits, a little bit about the CLI. And for new things, we have 2.7 that got out. Well, one of the big ones is that the CLI now is available in different installations. What else is there? There's the shell that we're talking about. There's the Quarkus Oracle reactive client. Hibernate search updates.
Now there's a lot of stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like there's more I'm missing right now.
No, there's a lot of stuff. There's a lot of stuff in the latest release. Just
anyone you want to talk about, Georgios, or you?
Trying to actually remember them myself. Let me see if I can pull up the list of noteworthy.
Stork.
Oh yeah, there was Stork. That was the one I had. Yes, Stork.
Yes.
We talked about like 3 or 4 episodes about for. Good. And well, while you're coming up with stuff, I can add in here that people are getting these T-shirts. I'm not for some reason, but yeah, we got people tweeting about the T-shirts coming out. These are the every time we do an episode, people ask like, "I want my T-shirts." Well, it's on its way, and there's proof people are getting them. US got them a bit earlier than Australia. Maybe get it soon. I hope, Stuart.
Maybe.
But the key thing is that you've done a contribution from the tag of 1.0 to 2.0 final. If you anytime on after 2.0, that's for the next time around for Quarkus 3 or whatever the next thing will be called. 2022. Yeah.
So here's another one that we haven't talked about at all. Actually, we now have an extension for building container images with build packs.
Oh yeah.
So yeah, we'll probably have to have Ioannis on sometime for him to demo that one.
We probably should do an update on all the different ways we can deploy things now. The build pack is. Yeah. We have support. So there is a extension now that will call out via build pack. I think he's using a Java one, right? So we don't even need to have build pack installed.
No, you don't. Yeah, you don't need to have it installed. So Ozzy made a library, a Java library that.
We should have. So for those who knows build pack, like it's a way to build or don't know build pack. You can way to build big containers. That basically the idea is you point it to a project or repository, and it kind of guess or gets configured to run in a certain kind of way. And then, like when you build a Spring Boot or a Wildfly app or a Quarkus app or a Node.js, it's kind of give you the same flow. And one of the things that we've always annoyed, well, not always, but been a bit annoying is that to use it, you have to install this whole tool chain. And so we can work with that tool chain, but we also have a Java version of it so that, it'll work anywhere and not have to download it. And then that is coupled together with some work that's going on having a build pack set of container images that you can use. But that's still in a work in progress, but it's there. So anyway, 2.7 is out. It's going to be 2.7.1 tomorrow because we found a bug or a few bugs.
There's always bugs.
That's how it goes. And anyway, so if you have questions, just ask in. And otherwise, I'll give the word over to you, Stuart, for whatever you want to talk about.
Well, I'm going to start by talking about this new sort of interactive shell that Quarkus Dev Mode has. So I've just got the Quarkus Hibernate RM quick start here, and I'll start up Dev Mode. And once it's started, you might note there's sort of a new option down the bottom here, which is press colon for terminal. So my app started now. So what I can do, I'll just close that, is if I press colon, all my text disappears and we go into what's called the alternate screen buffer mode, which is kind of what happens whenever you enter a text editor or anything else in the terminal. Now, the rest of my output is still there. If I press escape, I go back to my app. It's just kind of hidden in another window. So what I can do from here is if I press tab, I can see all the commands that I've got open, like available to me. Now, at the moment, there's not a huge set of commands because this is a very new feature, but this is something that as time goes on, we'll just add to these as we come up with ideas or people give suggestions. So if you get inspired by this episode and sort of come up with a cool idea for a command, just open an issue and let us know. So
Stuart, just one question here. So the reason why we don't just add this stuff, like more stuff to Dev UI, I guess is because not all Quarkus app has a web front end. So this is the way to get to these details, or?
Yeah, so, well, it's just kind of two different ways of doing a similar thing. Like Dev UI is great, but some people just prefer the browser. So I think it'll become clear once I sort of show it off, the sort of things you can do and do very quickly from this terminal that would be a bit more clunky from the browser, just because, like, you know, if you're good at typing and you're good at terminals, you can usually do something a lot faster than the terminal than you can by navigating through browser windows and browser links.
Sure.
So like the first command is very simple that I'll show off, and it's this Postgres command. So I'll type it, and the Postgres extension only offers one command, which is not very well named. It's just called print command, but it just gives you the spits out the command that you need to actually connect to this dev services database. So if you have a look in, I didn't really mention this before, but if you're aware of what dev services are, that is basically where if you don't configure a database, we provide one for you. So here we only have a production database configured. We don't have a dev mode one. So Quarkus has automatically started one, but normally connecting to this would be, if you wanted to actually connect to it with PSQL and have a look around, it's kind of a bit of a pain. You need to go to the dev UI, sort of look up the port manually and then figure out this connection string. But this print command option just spits out exactly what you need to run to connect to it. And then I can just copy it into a shell, and I can select the star from, I think it's known fruits. We can see basically I've just got a terminal connection there. Now this is a really simple command, but it's just something that can make life easier if you just want to quickly open a connection to the database and have a look, manually have a look at what's inside.
And I know the first version of this, you actually had it calling the Postgres PDSQL in the shell, but that very easily becomes hard to manage, right? That it's embedded inside like 3 layers of Quarkus.
Yeah, that was a bit too complex. Like I could have done it, but it just seemed a bit much and a bit too sort of fiddly. And so yeah, I just settled for just printing the command so you can just quickly and easily open a PSQL terminal and, you know, connect to the database that way, rather than actually trying to embed PSQL inside Quarkus. So the next one that I will show off is another really simple one, which is just the open command. And this is similar to, I don't know if you've seen this, but if you're in the your normal Quarkus app, one of the options when you press H is, if you press W, you can open the application in a browser, and it just opens the front page basically. The open command on the terminal is kind of similar, except that it tab completes all the paths it knows about. So here it's telling me that I can add an ID parameter. So it's just, if you have a lot of REST paths, it'll just sort of make it easy to open the one you want in the browser by just letting you tab complete the paths and quickly open the one that you're interested in.
Nice.
So that's the open command. Another one that I think is one of the more useful ones is the log command. So the log command just lets us set log levels very quickly and easily. Now, once again, there is kind of an equivalent command just here in the help option, where we can press J to toggle log levels. So at the moment, the log levels are the default. If we press J once, it sets all the log levels to debug. We set it again, it sets it to trace. Now see now if I restart the Quarkus application by pressing S, it spits out a massive amount of logs. And if I press J again, it goes back to the configured values. Now this is kind of useful, but the problem with setting everything to debug or everything to trace is you just get a huge amount of output. And if you're just after sort of one specific area, what you're after can kind of easily get lost in the hundreds of log messages that it generates. So in this terminal, you can quickly set the log level in a much more fine-grained manner. So you can say log set level -- logger equals, go io.quarkus, and then -- level equals trace. And this is all tab completed as well. And now if we go back here, when I restart, we just see the IO. Oh wait, I don't think I.
This feature is so cool. It just gave me an idea for more IDE integration. It'd be awesome if like we had it in IntelliJ, like the Quarkus plugin, had like a gutter or something on a class and said like enable debug log for this class or this package, and then it called out to this feature that changes. So that'd be pretty cool.
Yeah, that would be cool. So yeah,
building on
basically
this. This gives you everything. It's awesome. Yeah. So cool. Yeah, I didn't know about this one. This is so excellent.
So
something else.
The completion works for the package stuff. Was it the logger?
Yeah. So if logger, so if I press tab,
yeah, nice.
You got all these and the weird emoji Docker logger. I didn't realize
their category. Okay, got it. Yeah.
So yeah, we can set it back at Quarkus level equals 1. And there's also another command you can add here, which is -- done. And if you do that, this is sort of general. You can apply this to any command. And then when you press it, it drops you out. When you have that, it drops you out of that terminal straight back to your app. So rather than having to manually quit. And that's kind of very useful with aliases, which I'll kind of get to in a moment. So what else do we have here? So we've also got a config editor. Now this is, just a simple way to set Quarkus config. So here in this file, well, I've got the file open in my IDE, so really it'll be easy just to change the config value in the file. But say I didn't have that open and I couldn't remember the name of what my config is, you can actually do tab completed config messages, config editing. So quarkus.hibernate.orm.log.sql equals false, and it will actually update that file. So now that's been set to false. So it's just another easy way of setting configuration, and it's all tab completed. So it doesn't matter if you can't exactly remember what the name of the config option you're after is. The tab completion just makes it a lot easier to figure it out. Kind of.
What happens if you set a build time property? Does it out of the?
It just restarts the app. So like in dev mode, there's no real distinction between runtime and build time, because if we look back here, when I set
yeah, that's true.
It can restart it will restart the app.
Cool.
We have a comment. Yeah, so if this works with YAML config, it would be extra helpful. I'm not sure. Yeah, well, what exactly?
Well, you're changing the model here, right? You're not changing the file, so it should work.
We changed the file.
Oh, okay.
It's the same. It's the same as the DevUI config editor. So like you can do this in the browser as well, which I'll sort of show a bit later if you open up in DevUI. But it just changes application properties. I don't know if we have support for that for YAML or not. It's definitely something we could potentially do. I just don't know if it's there.
Yeah, it's a good point. True. I'm not sure if maybe we just write like a file or something, like a properties file, and then override it. I'm not sure.
If you do that, it means we lose the comments too. So I can't remember.
So I'm just trying to remember where this is actually. And I'll have a look and see if it is. See if we can update the YAML.
Otherwise, for Christian, please try it out and open an issue if it doesn't work.
Yeah, well, basically. So value. No, I think it's just I think it's just the properties file. I don't think it works for YAML, but we could definitely extend it to work for YAML. I think we just need to. Just no one's asked us to yet. So
we gotta
definitely make it work with YAML.
Yeah, it shouldn't be that hard. So Christoph, he's been asking good questions the last few times. Good. He likes to open for REST application. Is there something similar for Pico CLI apps, like run with command autocomplete and pass completion for command line arguments? That's a bit.
Pico CLI, you can use the normal support for when it runs and then it exits. You can press E to edit the command line.
Yeah.
After it's exited, but there's nothing sort of specific there.
But you could actually do that in a Pico CLI. Could have, if there's a way for Pico CLI you have an extension for Pico CLI. It could actually provide you with completion for the command line
the arguments.
Yeah,
we could do that.
Yeah, it's not there yet, but I could see it work. But
it'll be a bit of work for to do for potentially how useful the feature is. But I could see we could do it.
So, all right.
So now the next one I was going to show off, which I think is one of the most useful ones, is the testing support. Now, I've actually got some aliases here that I set up when I was testing this out. I'll get rid of them because I'm going to talk about aliases later. You might have noticed that there were two commands there called unit and integration. They're just aliases I created when I was playing around with this earlier, and they're gone now. So I'll recreate them live in a second. So now, one of the other really useful features is that you can use this test command to control which tests are currently run with continuous testing. So if I go back out here and I press R, we can enable Quarkus's continuous testing mode. And I forgot to do a clean, so I might just do a npm clean, because I think a previous test that I playing around with hadn't been cleaned off. So even though I've only got one test, it was thinking I had two. I'll also get rid of the fail, so the test actually passes. All right, now I should be ready to go. I think I've got rid of all the cruft I was playing around with earlier. All right, so now if I press R, it resumes continuous testing. So the first thing it does is it starts another dev services database so that our test database doesn't conflict with the existing database, and it still was using a slightly out of date version of that class, so it still picked up that failure. Now it's all working. So I'm going to add a second test as well, because it's kind of pointless to control things when you've only got one test. So I'm going to add a unit test, which will just be empty. 1, 2 plus test 1 and test 2. So now when I save that, you can see that all 3 tests are running. Now I'm going to add some tags to this class. So I'm just going to tag this one as being a unit test. And in my other one, I'm going to tag it as being an integration test. But now what I can do in my terminal is I can use this test command to set which tags are actually being run at the moment. So test tags include integration. I can say -- run dash done. So
include that and nothing else.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it still reports that all 3 tests are passing, but it only actually ran that one test now, just because it knows that those other ones. I think that's actually a bit of a bug that needs to be fixed. So once that inclusion data change, it needs to wipe them from its memory of tests that have passed. I'll fix that in a new version. But you can see that now that I've set that, it will now only run one test. And if I press R, it'll still only run 1 out of 1 test. So using this, I can kind of easily control which tests actually get run. And I can do, again, so now I've changed it to running unit tests. We can see that now only 2 tests were run. And I won't really show this off, but you can also do use a pattern. So you could say use basically a regular expression that matches your class names or your package names to figure it to sort of run a subset of tests. Like if you have a huge code base and you only want to run tests in like in some particular package, you can use this pattern matching, like include or exclude, to change which tests are run. So this kind of gives you the ability to quickly cut down the number of tests that are actually being run. Now, that's all good, but it still is like a relatively verbose command. So what we can do is if we copy this, we can then go alias unit test equals, I need alias ut equals that command. Then alias it equals a similar command.
Oh, nice.
And now, if I just go ut, it just changes. So now it only runs unit tests. We go back and go it, and change it. So now it's just running the integration. So you can just kind of set up aliases for test profiles that you like. You can do the same thing with logging or any of the commands. So you can just alias commonly used things. And
where are those settings stored, by the way?
It's stored in your home directory, I think, because this is something that's provided by the Java library AESH. I didn't actually have to write the alias features, but I'm pretty sure it's stored in. I did have to set Quarkus. Where is it stored? That's a good question.
We just need to make sure we actually align this with the other CLI stuff and config we have. But yeah, console. Okay.
Yeah, so .quarkus/console aliases. But is that relative to the home directory or the project? I think it might be per project. Oh no, it's in the home directory.
Okay.
So,
well, we should align that. So we don't.
Because I was doing CD, that's why I didn't show up rather than LS. Because you can't CD into a file. So you can share these between projects, basically. Like once you've created these aliases, they'll just, you can use them on any project, which may or may not be the right thing depending on your use case. But if it's an issue, it's easy to change.
Yeah. Okay. Well, we have a few questions now. One is saying, is dev mode going towards a more like Laravel Tinker? Before I saw that question, I hadn't heard about it, but I just checked. Laravel is a PHP framework.
Well, Laravel is very well known, but I'd never heard of Tinker.
Tinker was the thing. And Tinker is literally just like a console thing that you hook onto your application. And I think, are we going towards it? I wouldn't say so. We've always been there. But yeah, I guess for the shell, it's new that we had this more direct control. But
yeah.
But
it's just sort of designed to be little things that make your life a bit easier. Like it's not
Yeah. And I can see Tinker has stuff like compiled env call out to events and stuff. So, but I think basically the stuff that Tinker can do, this thing can do too, at least in a similar vein. So I guess the answer is yes, or we've been there. And then there's Venki asking for how can we debug Quarkus product if we deploy the Quarkus in an OpenShift container. The answer is the same way you debug a Java application, if you're talking not Java. So that means two things. You have to have run with a JDK, have the debugging enabled. If you use the Quarkus deploy ones, they have a run Java that has a Java debug property you can set. But otherwise, you need to make sure the container is actually running in debug mode. And then
and that's really base image specific, right? Like
it depends on the
yeah.
you have, right? But we have one. The default one we're trying to get to is using run Java that has this flag that works on every version of what you have. And then you have to port forward. Like so, if you're running wherever you're running, needs to be able to see that port on that container, and which you can do. But just be careful that when you do that, you basically open up a debug port to the whole world. So yeah, maybe if you're behind the VPN stuff is not a problem. So and you can look it up. I think we have it in our documentation for how to debug remote. We can.
And then from your IDE, you need to tell it to connect to a remote application. So you just select throw IntelliJ's remote JVM debug, and then select the port and the host.
Yeah, and the host will be whatever DNS setup you have for your instance.
Or if you're using kube port forwarding, it will be localhost.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, true. Yes, that's true. That is true. Oh yeah, by the way, I misspoke here. You do not want to make a service for it. It's because you're using debug forward. Sorry, yeah. Because you're using kube forwarding, you're ensuring that it's only to your machine, not to everyone else. So, yeah. At some point, we actually had there was a feature in some containers that did that, and it was like, wait.
Set up a route. Ooh, that's.
That was a long time ago. What is it here? Possible future data transform dev service, maybe around Spark or Red Panda, Wasm transform. Sure. That's the nice thing with this, right? All these are done by extensions, right? That's the extensions can contribute commands to this, right?
Yeah. So like this is fully extensible. So any extension can contribute commands. And if you've got an idea you can just add it. Even like Quarkus extensions can add to this and add their own features. Same with the dev UI. That's extensible as well. And the extensions can just add their own features.
Yeah.
Basically, it's just Quarkus sort of provides some contextual tooling that just makes life easier. Like it's not trying to replace the IDE or anything like that, but it's just in a case of where we can do things that IDEs can't, and we just try and make your life easier that way.
So you could have an extension that literally just kind of look up. Forget how Kafka and stuff is done, but literally, I guess we can look up in Arc. We can look up beans with certain properties, like certain classes, and then an extension could know how to operate on them. Oh, if there's type something, we can do these operations. But yeah.
Well, we already do that, like for Flyaway, for example. Yeah, you already have that in the dev UI. So,
yeah, for like scheduled methods as well, I guess.
Right.
Like you can just hit a button and invoke the scheduled methods.
Right, or caching, you can clear cache and stuff like that. So yeah, it's the same idea.
And then Eric says, a way to undo or reset anything you may have done. I guess that delete the alias file. Is that the only thing we can? Not sure what you refer to. Undo or reset.
What was the question?
He's saying, is there a way to undo or reset anything you may have done? Oh, I guess like
Yeah.
change properties and change aliases. I guess no.
No, well, like if you change config properties, then it's just you can see the change in a git diff, and you just git revert. If you want to go back to how it was, you can see the changes there. With the unit test, there isn't a reset command, but you can just set like the include tags to star, I think. But maybe there should just be a reset command. That's a good idea. We should add that as a feature.
Yeah, it says in general anything you do in
Same with logs. I should add a just reset to default.
Yeah. Right now, not, but yeah. And he said for some change logging, sorry to undo what you did. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, but that means that you have to undo the file, right? The file is now changed.
No, so with logging, so it's just done in memory. It's not
okay. So the properties of doing it.
Persistent. I could add an option to make it persistent if you want to like persistently set the level. I could add a dash persist flag.
Make Eric do it. He asked for it.
Yeah.
That'll be one. And then we got one from Big A94. In-plan support dev mode for multimolded projects, like running Quarkus dev on a parent that starts all subprojects. So that's like you can actually do. Well, you can't. Like
it does, but if I remember correctly, it assumes that there's one Quarkus application.
Yeah. So if you're doing like if you have multiple services,
yeah,
you would not like there'll be if you have 5 products, there'll be 5 Quarkus dev thing. So I'm not. Well, you could write a plugin that does that, but that's a Maven plugin, or a script. I think it'd probably be easy to do a script, but not sure what the gain will be because you want to have 5 terminals with the meets open.
And and how would logging work with that? Like you have 5 services and logging like coming into the same terminal. That's not going to look too good.
Yeah. So I know that when we had Eric on last week with he had his the superhero app. He has like 5 or 6 services. Yeah, he kicks them off in different terminals. But yeah, you gonna say something?
Yeah,
Sue?
I think that is the easiest way to do it. Otherwise, you just kind of end up reinventing screen in Java. Right?
Yeah, basically.
And I don't want to do that.
Yeah. I think this would be one of those things where, hey, if someone has it like some time, they could write a script that kicks off a tmux screen or something. Yeah.
Yeah, because what you can do with this alternate screen buffer mode is you can implement commands that let you switch between different processes and filter the output that way. But it's not something I want to do.
No, I think that's better to let someone else do that, solve that problem. Nana says you could do with a Docker Compose. Yeah, the thing is, I could see again just relying on the fact that it's a Quarkus app and it's in most modules. You could write a script that sets it up, basically just find every Quarkus app and kick them off. But there's just too many.
But you
can't
get this terminal thing working though, because which app gets the input?
No, but I was saying like they would literally be started up as 5 different tmux streams, basically. So they run, and then you just set up your tmux to switch between them.
Yeah,
right. Something like that. Yeah. Okay. Cool. Do you got more, Stuart?
Yeah, I was just going to show off a little bit more of the dev UI because it's probably been a while since we really showed it, and there's a few new features there.
Yeah.
So if we press H here again, we can we can see here if we just press D, this will open the dev UI. Now this has been around for a while, so you might have seen it before.
That's the way I use it constantly. I remember someone said like, "Why do you want to add that? You just open the browser." Yeah, like but
it's so much faster.
Yeah, exactly.
It's the small things.
So so dev UI now it has the logs down here. So if you're in the browser, you can actually see the logs same as you could in the console. You can also look at the test results and get more detailed test results from continuous testing. So there's not much to see here because everything passed. But if we change it to fail, we go back, we can see that we can actually get the all the log output for the test and the
I did not know we
the
had
actual
more.
fail.
That is nice.
So this can just give you a better view of the results than just trying to look at it in the terminal, depending on how much output there is. And you can also kind of control it the same way you can in the terminal with the keyboard shortcuts.
Yeah.
So it just gives you an extra way to work with continuous testing. And as you saw then, like it's live updated. So if a test starts failing, this page just updates immediately.
Those stack trays aren't clickable yet, are they? We really want.
No, they're not.
Yeah, should be. No.
They should be, but they're not. Yeah, so there's also, I've added something new to the Flyaway extension that lets you kind of automatically migrate from Hibernate's Hibernate managing the database to actually a more to like the next step where you have Flyaway or something else managing the database, because you don't really want Hibernate to manage the database in a production app. So if I go here and I'll add the Quarkus Flyaway extension.
So Phil disagrees with you, by the way.
What?
He says the stack trays are clickable in the log and test screen.
Are they? Oh yeah, it is too. It's in the log. It's not working on my computer, but it is. It is clickable.
Okay.
Something else that you may have noticed is that in the logs, the bits that are your user code are highlighted in bold. So not just here, but in the terminal as well. So just when you're looking at a big stack trace in the logs, we can see that. Oh, it's not working.
Well, that's in that's because you're running in the IntelliJ's console. You have to turn for the ANSI stuff. Yeah.
Okay. Well, if you're running in a normal console, this bit here would be highlighted in bold just to show you that that's your application rather than framework, just to give you an idea of where the error might be.
Yeah, and Phil reminds him that NetBeans is the best because he works there. That's what he said.
Yeah, Phil's probably the only NetBeanser we have.
So, but no, we have if it's set up on your machine and it's detect correctly, there's Eclipse and VS Code and IntelliJ and NetBeans. That's what I remember. So
yeah, I don't know why it's not working here.
Yeah.
Anyway, so now I've added that Flyaway extension. We get a Flyaway tile here. If we have a look, I've just got this option here to create an initial migration file. So if I hit that, it just comes up with a bit of information telling me what it's going to do. And I hit yes. And it restarts. Now it's using Flyaway. And it's created a version 1 of my database that is based on the Hibernate schema that was auto-generated. So basically, you can use Hibernate when you start off with your app and are just getting started and testing stuff out, and just use its automatic schema creation. But once that's sort of no longer enough for you, because you've got like a production database that you can't just drop and recreate each time, you can just kind of hit that button, and then Quarkus will automatically set up Flyaway for you based on the current state of the app.
Yeah.
So
this one is like you did it here in like 2 seconds, and people might not realize what's going on here because this is where dev mode is blurring the lines between everything, right? So this is you're running your app in dev mode. Okay, I can introspect it, but you changed properties files, but here you're actually creating a new setup.
So
Flyaway, right?
So this is just creating a new file and just kind of, automatically following the right naming conventions and just copying the exact schema that you're already working with from the database.
Yeah.
And
there you go.
Yeah, just like you could do all this manually, of course, but it just, it just takes time, and you have to look stuff up in the docs if you not doing it every day, and it just
yeah, exactly.
Yeah, it just makes life easier.
So, but that's the thing is, like anyone who's listening who might is writing an extension or planning on writing one, but these like this is stuff that I remember it took me a while at least to recognize. Oh, dev mode can actually do basically anything, including creating and setting up new things, not just reflect on what's there, but actually create new stuff, which is it's pretty cool. Okay.
Yeah, and I think that's mostly it. Actually, one thing I'll mention is that the config editor is that, yeah, like the dev UI always had this configuration editor, and it shows every property in Quarkus, and it's just huge. And there's like 1,000 properties. So like it's good, but it's hard to find what you're after. But now these extensions, some of them have this little config edit button down there. If you click that, you'll just see the relevant config for that extension. Oh, nice. So this like is just limited to data source and Hibernate properties. And you can also see these properties that have this magic wand next to them. They're the properties that Quarkus is automatically set using dev services. And there's a neat button here where you can just sort of copy those dev service profiles to, say, the prod profile. And even though this just kind of gives you a template to work in, we already had prod. Anyway, we already had prod settings here, so it's not that useful. But it just kind of gives you a template for showing you the properties you will actually need to set in production, because Quarkus has been setting them for you.
Very nice. So is there like a config page for dev service that shows all the ones that are changed?
There is a pull request for it, but it didn't make it into 2.7. I think it might be in 2.7.1. So I'll see. I don't know if it actually got merged or not. I'll change the version and check.
Very nice. Are you building that?
No, well, I already have. Hopefully have an up-to-date version of Quarkus. We'll see if it has the dev services page in it. It's well, I had a partially built version of Quarkus. My local snapshot isn't working. Anyway, there is a page coming that's going to list all the dev services and show you what Quarkus is setting. Yes. If not in 2.7.1, in a release soon after that.
Very nice. Cool. Anything else you want to show about DevFile? Oh, not DevFile. DevUI.
I think that's about it. Unless you guys can think of something else that I should show off.
Well, you showed me new things, so I'm not sure.
It's great. Yeah, I didn't know a lot of stuff either. Excellent.
And by the way, those who don't know dev mode, there's now a cup for Quarkus, or maybe you can't see it. So just for fun, last week we made a Quarkus cup that shows all the shortcuts to dev mode. So there's a link on there's a link in my bio. No, there's a link on my Twitter where you can get it if anyone wants to. Yeah. Well, anyway, I can talk a little about the CLI changes that came in 2.7. I'll put use there. So I don't have a demo here because I don't have a demo. I have the slide. The slides or the documentation. So anyway, we had for a while, for I don't know 6 months or so, we've had the CLI installable with for JBang, but not everyone used JBang. I don't know why, but that's what people do. So if you're on the Mac, you can use Homebrew. So you now have brew install Quarkus IO type Quarkus, and that gets updated every time we have a new major version. And the nice thing about the CLI, at least, is that you don't have to have like if you're using Quarkus 2.3, the 2.7 Quarkus CLI will still be able to work with it. But of course, we always kind of recommend you to use the latest, greatest from there. So if you want to use Brew, you can do that now. So once you've done this Brew install Quarkus.io tab Quarkus, you can do updates, etc. It's important to know that you have to install Java before this, but otherwise, yeah, it works like any other like command line tool. Same in SDK Man, which has this added benefit that it also works on Linux, where Homebrew is only. It also works on Windows VSL2, but I'm not sure how well it will actually run. And again, you have to install Java first, which of course many people has, and it will have all the like major versions available from those places. Any question might be like, why would I use one over the other? So whether you use Homebrew SDK Man depends on like which package manager you prefer. The end result is about the same. You have to install Java first, run install, and then after that you can use it and you can do updates. With JBang, the big benefit is you don't have to install anything, which means it's the one we use for getting starter guides because it runs anywhere. Or if you want to set up Quarkus in your Docker container or your Raspberry Pi or that kind of thing, you can do that with this command. And then the benefit, it works on both like Linux, OS, Windows, and even the PowerShell. It's a bit different command, but you can do so. And then the thing that, again, is a more advanced feature, but with JBang, you install multiple different versions of the CLI. So you can test you can have one for your snapshot, you can have one for the older version or new version, all up to, what's your thing. But yeah, like, so those are the three options that are there now. And I think the next one we're going to, it actually says here. Yeah, Chocolatey was the big one, or one of the big
Windows one.
Yeah, for Windows. Microsoft has their own NuGet thing, not NuGet, WinGet. Unfortunately, that requires an installer, which we don't have. So we're waiting, but they're planning on adding zip support. But so anyway, until that happens, Chocolatey will be added, and I think I might even have seen release of it. But we're waiting for there's a whole process you have to go through. All these we can control automatically. So yeah, but no. So while we edit, just for them I've not noticed, every piece of code on our website now has a copy icon. Very little small thing, but save time. So have that for everywhere. And I don't. Is the tab one? Is that live yet? I don't think it is.
Yeah, you could check switch versions to the main snapshot.
There you go. Yeah. So if you go to the main one, and you go to any guides.
I think I don't know. Try like REST or something.
That one?
No, not this one.
No.
This is like a blog post. Something. Getting. It's like write REST in the find guide thing. Oh, okay. Yeah.
So that's all coming up. Like normally we only had the Maven commands. You get the CLI commands in there too. But in the latest, it's not in 2.7, but I'm not sure if it's gonna come in a 2.7 or a 2.8 update. But in general, just small things that make it easier to copy and paste and find stuff for it. And you'll see us using more of the CLI. Well, I'll just compare these two. That's this one I can't remember. This I can.
Something else with the CLI is that if you're using Gradle, if you just run the Quarkus dev task, you don't get that fancy console because Gradle tries to take over the console and I can't sort of do the magic that I need to do to make that work. Whereas if you run the Quarkus app, the Quarkus CLI on a Gradle project and run Quarkus dev, then it will work. In fact, if you share my screen, I can actually demonstrate that. Yeah, so I've got a Gradle project here. So if I run Gradle Quarkus dev, it'll download.
I keep forgetting that.
Um,
Yeah, and this is one of the things I don't like about Gradle is that, well, I understand why they do it, but they basically they steal all the standard input and output to.
It's because they have their own like fancy console that is doing the same thing as Quarkus, and okay, this is taking longer than I thought it would because I haven't actually run Gradle on 2.7 yet locally.
That's why it's just taking time.
Yeah.
I guess Gradle can't beat physics. Yeah.
No. It must download its own copy of the artifacts, not just use the Maven ones.
Also, Eric says you can use this console plane where you turn it off. That is true.
It still doesn't work because it still starts a daemon in the background, and that isn't attached to the TTY, so I can't set it into raw mode and can't sort of get the immediate user input.
And then how Maven D handles input things. Not sure. I haven't tried Maven D with Quarkus Dev.
It probably wouldn't handle it.
Yeah, it'll probably be the same.
It'll have the same issues. So that we can see it's finally started. Is that instead of the Quarkus terminal, we now just have the Gradle terminal just kind of sitting there, and you can still type commands, but it's not a single letter. You have to press it's not immediate. You have to press enter after each. So if you do continuous testing with R, it doesn't just keep the output down the bottom here. It it will
comes weird.
Just spit out every line like that. And if there was dev services, they'd fill up the logs. Whereas if we use the Quarkus CLI and do Quarkus dev, unset that environment variable, which then it works the same as it does with Maven.
Yeah.
And the way I do that is I basically just within Gradle, I'll build up the dev mode jar and build everything it needs to run, and then Gradle exits, and then the console, the CLI, just executes that jar that Gradle generated.
Yeah.
And that gives you the full Quarkus experience, even if you're using Gradle.
Cool. I didn't know we had that a little different, but yeah, that's cool. Okay. Well, I guess we are at the end of the hour, unless there's no one else that had questions. So yeah. So anyway, thanks for that, Stuart. I learned a few things. And for anyone else, I hope, including myself, the t-shirt's coming soon. And if you get it or have got it, please make a tweet that says I make Quarkus or a hashtag with that one. Then we will add you to the Wall of Fame with that one in.
Nice.
Cool. Awesome. Well, thank you. We'll get 4 minutes back of our time. See you around then. Bye-bye.
Thanks a lot. It's great.